Alicia is the head of industry for retail and marketplace at Meta, and I will hand it over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm going to sit down. Okay, you're going to join me. Great. Hi, everybody. Good morning. I cannot get over this view. I was telling Ethan, if I could start all my mornings like this, that'd be great. Thank you so much for inviting me. As Ethan said, my name is Alicia LeBeouf. At Meta, I lead a vertical that represents and supports all big box retail, e-com, and marketplaces in our country. I have a team that's based here and in the Bay Area, so I'm really excited to be here. I know we're going to talk about Retail Reinvented, but I always like to start these conversations with a little bit of perspective about Meta and about how we support retail. So I'm going to do that for the first, it's going to be really quick, 5 to 6 minutes, I promise. So I like to start with this slide because I think it is really important. Like, back in the day, you would say, I'm going shopping. And I think we all would agree that no one is going shopping. They are always shopping. Or if you're like me, you're scrolling on Instagram at 8, 9 p.m. and you find something really cute and you're like, I need those shoes, and you go and you buy them immediately. So this concept of discovery, inspiration, this flywheel has changed. And we think that Meta is prime position to support that. We have a lot of talk about omnichannel, omnichannel being omnipresent. And I know historically, especially post-pandemic, web browsing has increased. It has actually doubled. But we've always talked about shopping on channels, whether that's online, in-store, app, mobile, web. But I think we've really missed the mark to really think about, it's not really about channels that are really reinventing the shopping journey. It really is the customer. And so that's where we have really focused our energy over the last couple of years, is really thinking about, how is she shopping? How is he shopping? What are those things that, from our platform perspective, that we can do to help fuel that experience? And we think AI is at the center of that. And I know we're going to talk about AI in a second. AI is embedded in every single product that we make. And it has always has been over the last couple of years, even when the platform was built. AI is really about getting to the right person at the right time with the right message, and being able to really do that effectively, and really to think about the cost savings that are associated with that. So when we think about omnichannel, we think about, obviously our platform is online, but the products that we have today do drive in-store behaviors. That's been proven. So yes, you might see an ad on your phone, but the products that we have essentially say, all right, you can see that ad, but we have proof that says that that ad can also drive an in-store conversion, and that's really exciting. Our products also are very local. So I don't know about you, but I hate when I say I'm going to the store and that store says that they have my item and I get to the store and they don't have that item, right? So most of the things on our platform now are locally enabled, meaning that not only can you see the store, you can also see your local inventory, and I will get an ad that's targeted to the proximity around me, right? So I can set up, my store set, talk about the stores that are around me, see the ads that are most relevant, and make it highly personal. These are all things that have been, new for us, because the real challenge was to crack the code between this sort of online and in-store. And our omnichannel suite is effectively doing that right now. These slides are essentially showing you how we geo-target people based on proximity. So the ability to say, Alicia is in Tribeca, she's passing a store. Here's an ad that we're going to serve her that we know she was looking at those red shoes at 8 p.m. Well, guess what? They're in the store right now. Maybe she's interested, and I get a ping about them. I am that person that would go buy them because it's convenient for me. I'd be remiss to not end my slides with probably one of the most exciting things, which is Reels. I said this on another panel the other day, and I said, I probably send my husband like 10 Reels a day. That's how we communicate in the morning. Like I was traveling this morning, I woke up and I sent him a Reel, and he's like, really? Can I get a good morning? I'm like, that was my good morning. We're really excited about Reels. And just for perspective, there are 3.8 billion people that use our family of apps in a given month. So that's across Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. Reels is our fastest growing product. Over half of the ways that people are using our family of apps is watching video. And we know that Reels is not only driving discovery and intent, but it's also driving purchases. And this is just an example. And so we're using Reels and really encouraging e-commerce players, retailers, and marketplaces to think about how Reels can really drive that message home. So I'll end with this. When I think about retail, I think the sweet spot is, how do you think about social? How do you think about AI? How do you think about some of these products when we talk about omni-channel to really drive that experience when we think about retail reinvented? That's it.
Amazing. And I think it kind of leads in, because one of the things is always, we were very excited to have you today, and we really appreciate you taking the time. And I think one of the things that really excited me personally is, we're always looking at the physical world and trying to understand the consumer from that perspective. We've seen a consumer that's changed quite dramatically in the last few years, but certainly if you kind of look back from a longer kind of spectrum of time, from your perspective and coming from that digital point of view, how have you seen the consumer change? And what do you think that tells you about how that consumer is going to look in the year or years to come?
Yeah, good question. So I'll also start and say, I started my career in retail. So I spent 10 years at Target. I see my friend Will here. We spent time at Target together. And I remember when I joined Target, the big thing was self-checkout and putting self-checkout in stores, which was like the most innovative thing ever, right? And look at us now. Now there are some stores with just walkout technology. But it really has been about, how do we enhance the customer experience and meet them where they are, right? And so then, you kind of fast forward to today. We've had the pandemic. We saw a shift in really accelerating, this desire for people to want to continue to shop, but they knew they couldn't go in the store. And we think that's where social really took off. I mean, we knew we always had that suspicion, but now it's proven that people start on our platform. That's how they discover. Right? You may not know you need that red pair of shoes. You may not know what you want for dinner tomorrow until you see that reel of somebody making an amazing pasta. And so this idea that, discovery starts there and it starts to lead to conversion and then purchase, I would say is one of the big ways that the consumer has changed. The other thing is, the consumer is not just, at Target, we used to say her a lot because we knew the consumer was predominantly a female who was shopping for a family. That has completely changed. At least in my household, that's changed too, where it's everybody, right? It's everybody. You can be on social, digital. Everyone is sort of thinking and shopping and discovering. And so how do you think about the consumer in a more dynamic and complex way? The consumer has also gotten a lot younger. And so thinking about the services that, consumers are interacting in. And so all those ways, I think consumers have changed. And this idea that they want things faster, this sort of on-demand culture, they are always shopping. They always want to be inspired. They always want to discover. And I think retailers and brands that are able to identify and strike that balance are winning with consumers today.
It's so interesting you say that, because it's, you mentioned the example that clearly strikes close to home for me. You see that reel of, like, for me, it was smashed potatoes with garlic that I kept on seeing next to salmon and became like obsessed with. But it's that idea that the inspiration can happen anywhere, but then the actual fulfillment in a lot of cases needs to take place somewhere else. And it creates this much more expansive view, because I think, when we talked about omnichannel, it was kind of like, oh, well, we have digital channels and we have physical channels, but we never really viewed them as this interactive loop. And so you have this unique experience where kind of you sit, again, 3.8 billion people, quite a few, and one of the largest, most significant digital platforms on planet Earth, but then also that actual store experience. How do you view omnichannel? How do you see it changing?
Yeah, I said this the other day. I was like, you no longer have the option to be great at store or great online. You have to be great at both, and it has to be seamless. And if you can't do that, then you're out of the game. I also always ask people, when's the last time you've been in a mall? Half the stores in the mall are brand new, like brand new brands that did not exist 2 years ago. So they were e-commerce players that said, we need a physical storefront. So there is value in the physical store, and there will always be, and there's value in online. The people that are winning are able to find sort of that sweet spot in between. And I think the experience is hybrid. So when I go in a store, like, let's say I'm in a grocery store and I'm thinking about those smashed potatoes. Wouldn't it be great if on my phone, I'm in the store and it says, well, those mashed potatoes are in aisle E2. Go pick them up. And that's what I'm having for dinner tonight, right? So sort of this interactive display of how those things are working. Or maybe I do my shopping cart before I get in the store. Or maybe there's a creator that I love. Her name is No Crumbs Left Behind. She's a homegrown chef out of Chicago. I go in the store just to buy whatever she's cooking that night, right? But imagine if in my cart, it was already pre-prepared. So when I went in the store, all I had to do was pick it up. I think those are the sort of things that we're going to continue to see is sort of this digital and physical world collide, because that's what consumers want. And not only does it sort of bridge the convenience, but it also sort of bridges the inspiration.
No, it's so important. I think one of the topics we're most, I mean, I would say obsessed because it's become a little bit too much, but we're really into the physical retail media, which is this capacity to engage with the customer when they're in that discovery mode, when they're having that thought process within the store. But I think one of the things that was always fascinating to us was a lot of people, they overdo kind of trying to bring digital into the physical or physical into the digital and not utilize channels for what they bring uniquely well to the table. And so there are things that the experience on Meta that I'm going to enjoy, I can't bring that into the store, and I need to try and create something that interacts so that it lifts up that wider experience. In your mind, when you think about what digital does so well, but then what the store provides, how do you see the store evolving to be a better part of that ultimate omni-channel journey?
Yeah, I think a few things. So there are a few categories that I think are right for this: electronics, beauty, and home. So when I go into the beauty aisle, I want to see the latest makeup trends. Now, the way I have to do that today is I have to go on my phone, Google, what are the latest makeup trends, or go on Instagram and see the latest influencers. Wouldn't it be great if there were some interfaces that showed me 10 creators that were sort of vetted to give me the colors of the season, right? And then what if there was an AR, VR display that could show me what plum looked like on my lip, right? I'm buying that all day, right? That's an example of a digital and physical experience combining. Same with home. You look at a couch, you go into a store and you're like, this couch is great. How would this look in my house, right? If you had a picture of your house, maybe it hyperimposes that picture of that couch in your living room, right? Electronics, which we all have known, electronics back in the day has been get DVDs, maybe a TV. I don't know the last time you all have been in an electronics section, but it is ripe for innovation. Maybe in the future, it is more about experience. Maybe it is the Meta Ray-Ban glasses or the Orion glasses, or being able to get people to test AR, VR. One of the things that, I always tell people is like, you can't get ahead of innovation either. So in the self-checkout example, I remember us thinking we're going to have a store with only self-checkout, and consumers hated it. Like, we would have people come in the store and say, there's nobody to check me out, I'm leaving, right? But this was back in like 2008. So we knew consumers needed time. So what you do is you add 3 self-checkout units. You get them used to it. You start seeing a pattern of behavior, and then gradually. So what I like to see is stores starting to test things around innovation or test things around digital. Give me some interface screens. Let me see some creators that you're partnering with. You go in stores today, you start to see that. I'm seeing creators where back in the day, we used to see a model with the latest, outfit on, makeup, etc. Now it's your creator on Instagram. So they're starting to dabble in this world. I think a lot of the e-com players that have a few storefronts in the city and across the country are doing this really well too. And I think we're going to see an acceleration of that as we get into 2025.
I mean, you nail it on the head, and especially when we think about the direct-to-consumer players that have launched those first few stores. I think one of the things that was really fascinating when you look at what they're accomplishing is they're less oriented to how much product am I actually moving in the store, because they're fine if those sales actually take place online. They view the store as a place to create a certain type of experience, touch and feel a product, try it on, find the right size, whatever it may be. But it is this understanding that my online presence, the online journey, is a fundamental part of what I'm looking to empower. And if I can create an experience that ultimately leads into a sale, but it happens online instead of in the store, I'm still making that sale. And it changes the way you view the interaction.
Correct. It all boils down to entertainment, right? For me to get off my couch and go in a store, it needs to be an entertaining experience, right? Or at least, like, that's what the studies show. Like, people, you have convenience, you have options. You can order your groceries now. You can decide not to go in a store ever if you want to. And that the option, some people have that. So if I'm going in a store, it needs to be worth my while. And the way to do that and to make that draw is to connect that hybrid online, digital, and physical experience. And I think we're starting to see some of those in some brands across the country.
I mean, I love the fact you call it entertainment, because it's the first time I've heard it said like that. But I do think that's so part and parcel of what we're discussing. And the idea that entertainment is just, and even think about what we talked about, experiential retail. Like, it's not climbing walls or dart throwing or basketball courts. Excuse me. It's a positive retail experience that makes me enjoy the time that I'm spending. And you're right, these retail experiences can be entertaining. They can be uplifting. The greatest example I ever heard was, like, you walk into a Rolex store and the gentleman's wearing a suit and he calls you sir, and he lays out a leather mat and he puts the watch and he's careful and delicate in how he's handling it. Like, that's an experience. Like, you don't need kind of glitz and glamour. You need to get something across in a very honest way. I mean, what do you see? Because I think that digital perspective is so critical. What can stores learn about the way we're consuming information from a digital perspective in terms of how to enhance the store experience?
Yeah. So a couple things, and I'll give this example too, because we have the Meta Ray-Ban glasses. I hope you all have some. But at Meta Connect, Mark also talked about the Orion glasses. I don't know if you guys have seen the demo of these, but they're essentially these glasses that are really slick. They can interpret a different language in real time. They can almost detect what's around you. Imagine if I had these glasses and I went in the store, and let's say I was on a very strict no salt diet, and the glasses could look in the aisle and basically highlight the products that were good for me that day. That's not entertainment, but that is useful for me. Right? That is inspiring me. That is making my life easier. I'm in the store all day, discovering new products, understanding what's in the aisle, So those are some of the things that I think, as stores start to dabble. I mean, obviously the glasses are not available quite yet, but as stores start to dabble into this world of digital and physical, how they can do it really well. I think that's where I want to, I encourage retailers and e-commerce companies to start to just dabble in this area of what can you start testing, even online. How can you think about physical experiences? What does that look like? What can you disrupt to sort of get that traffic in the store? Because again, I think at the end of the day, stores have to be great at both online and in store. The other thing that I think is interesting is retail media networks, which, has also been quite buzz in 2024. So now what I think retail media networks do outside of, sort of thinking about first party data is really, these retailers have realized we know what you're buying. We know when you're coming in the store, and we know how you're interacting on our services. What if we match that with what you're discovering when you're on Instagram or when you're on Facebook or when you're using WhatsApp? That's powerful. So not only do I know what you're buying, but I also know what inspires you. And if I'm able to bridge that gap, then I'm making a hyper-personalized experience every time you interact with me, right? It's a game changer, right? And so it's no longer every company is, an ad business at this point, because every company is realizing that I have to start to target my customers in a different way to keep them engaged. And I think the evolution of retail media networks is sort of an example of that.
I also think it's so, again, there's this really powerful opportunity to create the excitement when you're in discovery mode and you're walking the aisles of the store, but it's that longevity that the digital channels provide that's so critical. And you were talking about this with the reels. If something inspires you enough to share it with your spouse or partner, that is an action that you've kind of committed to. And when you can create that type of experience, you're giving up so much of what drives you, what inspires you, what excites you. And if we can bring that from a holistic perspective across the retail journey, and there's so much power to that, I think it's clearly challenging. How would you, if you're speaking to a retailer, how do you ask them, or how would you guide them to approach that challenge overall?
Yeah, I would just ask them, what's their core? You kind of look at a retailer or a company's core values and you say, all right, how do you define your customer today? That's always where I start. And they'll sort of walk me through who their customer is, who typically shops with them, right? And then I ask, well, who do you want your customer to be? And then we think about where that gap is. And then we think about our platform and we say, all right, here's who your customer is. Here's what we know about your customers on our family of apps. How do we sort of build products that help to drive your customers? So for example, a lot of our customers, especially like grocery, is a hyper in-store experience. Most people still go to the grocery store to buy groceries instead of purchasing them online. Like we saw this huge acceleration during the pandemic that kind of cooled off. So in grocery stores, they're still going in the store, right? So grocery stores know that, but they also know that people are getting inspired by these crushed garlic potatoes online.
We need salt for them.
But we need salt for them. And so you think about that dynamic and you're like, all right, then I say, well, what products do I have that might be able to inspire you? So then I kind of go down the list. I think about our omni-channel suite. I think about where the grocery store is. If it's in Chicago, Austin, Texas, New York, then we start to think about like, how do you want to think about advertising and engagement with your customers in these areas? Is it a super urban area where people are not driving to the store, they're popping in? Do you need grab and go options? And so we kind of go down this list and kind of curate what we would think would be a really good digital strategy as they go throughout the year. And then we evolve it, right? That's sort of like I would say the initial way we do things. And then over time, as you get really good at it, then we bring in things like creators, which I think are a huge untapped opportunity for a lot of retailers. And then we go from there. So it really is about looking at the assets that you have and helping companies understand that social is no longer this sort of advertising thing that you do over here. Like, it's proven to drive outcomes. It is proven to drive purchases. And if you're not doing it, you're missing a huge segment of your customers and a huge opportunity to grow sales.
It's so well put. And I think one of the things that's so interesting is when we thought about digital, it was initially perceived as this fundamental threat to the store. And now years later, and especially with the rise of those direct-to-consumer brands, we've realized that not only is it not a threat, it's a fundamental piece of enhancing what the store is today and what it can be in the future. And there's so much power to these brands to really lean into, how do I extend my relationship? So when they're in the store, I want to provide a certain experience, but what about all the time in between? How am I engaging with you? How am I inspiring you, staying connected, developing that brand relationship, even in spaces like grocery?
Right. Correct. I'll give you another example. Like, I am completely obsessed with Jenny's ice cream. If you have not had Jenny's ice cream, you should get Jenny's ice cream. There's somebody from my team here, but I just sent my whole team Jenny's ice cream for the holidays, like a family pack. I did that because Instagram knows I like ice cream. So I saw this cute little holiday pack and I was like, I'm getting Jenny's ice cream for my team because they deserve it. But that's just a good example of, like, it's not an option anymore, right? When you think about the LTV of a customer and how expensive that is, everybody's going after the same customer. So in order for me to get you interested in my brand, and I need to have a relationship with you that extends beyond you coming in the store. That could be social, that could be TV, that could be app, etc., right? And so that's why most of these companies are now seeing digital and social as a part of this flywheel that says, it's not an option anymore. I need to talk to you consistently. I need to show you who I am consistently, because if I don't, then I'm just your convenience shopper. I'm the person that just comes in occasionally. Now, and because of that, going back to Jenny's ice cream purchase, now I'm sort of one of their loyal fans and I'm on subscription. Don't tell anybody, but that's because I think I have a relationship with them as a consumer.
But and I'll go to our last question. It's such the key piece of it, because it's relationship. And I think one of my favorite retailers I met on Facebook, and it was True Classic, and their ads were funny. And I was like, all right, this seemed to get me. And then you're willing to try a product, and then you like the product, and now it's ongoing, and they have stores, and those stores provide a great experience. But it's recognizing that you have a chance to create an interaction that is ongoing. And I mean, obviously found this super exciting, but let's take out our crystal balls for our last question. And if you had one bold prediction for retail in 2025, what would it be?
Can I give you 3?
Yes.
Okay. So 2025, I think we're going to continue to see this hybrid of digital and physical. I think we have to. And I think the folks that don't do it well will not survive. We're starting to see a lot of that, whether it's through M&A, whether it's through mergers, whether it's through companies just quite frankly going out of business. I think we're going to see a lot of the players rise to the top that are going to stay in market for a while. Because let's be honest, retail is a hard business, especially in this environment, and getting consumers and the traffic is still a very hard business. So I think we're going to see a lot of that in 2025. Second, I think this idea of creators is underestimated. So the value of how creators can really help with monetization or help you drive sales. A lot of people are afraid of creators. I know, historically we've called them influencers. But really thinking about like, okay, if I saw, supermodel in a dress, that's great. But if I saw the creator that I know from my kid's school that has the dress on and she walks me through it and how it fits, I'm more likely to buy that. So this idea that I have a personal relationship with the creator and that creator has a personal relationship with the retailer, I think we're going to see that go on steroids a bit. And then last but not least, AI, right? I think we have to end on this note. AI is not going anywhere. And again, I know that was the buzzword in 2024. It will continue to be. I think, there was a lot of like, well, we don't know about this. And the reality is that a lot of these companies have already been testing AI capabilities and automation. I think if I'm a CEO, I'm thinking about where can AI save me money, help me automate, and then last but not least, help make my customer experience frictionless.
If only there was an AI company running an event today.
Only there was an AI company. If only.
Alicia, thank you so much. This was so much fun. Really appreciate you being here and sharing your insights and expertise with us. Everyone, we are going to split off now in our breakout sessions. There are 3 rooms. If you leave this hall and go to your right, there are 3 different sessions taking place concurrently. There will be a small break. More sessions. We'll get back in here after lunch for a keynote of how Placer is going to be evolving, and we are going to touch heavily on AI. Please make sure to get your badge scans because you will be automatically entered into a raffle to win a MetaQuest 3.
And you want the MetaQuest 3. Christmas is in 2 weeks, so.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Alicia.